Hello, welcome to the January edition of the Leader Games Studio Chat.
Hello.
It's a rebranding. We used to be the Design Chat, but we're opening things up a bit this year.
And make the Design Chat.
Right?
New year, new us.
Yeah, open, and even an opener studio. And that's because like Patrick and I, we shouldn't have all the fun.
Yeah, we shouldn't have all the fun.
Just a large portion of it.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
And so we'll have guests and different folks come on throughout the year to talk about different parts of the process, hear what other people are playing. Mm-hmm. Probably Pokemon Safari. Mm-hmm. At some point there'll be a discussion of Pokemon Safari, almost certainly.
Mario Wonder.
Sure.
Or whatever the name is.
Which I still haven't beat because my children stole it from me. So we are going to touch base about some of the things we're working on and all that. But first, Patrick, what have you been playing?
Oh no, you asked me my one mortal weakness and this question. So I, over the break, as you may know, my family had COVID. So I did kind of cut into game time a little bit.
Sure.
I'm not complaining, just saying it was a change. I did get to play Spirit Island the first day of the break 3 times. That was a lot of fun. Played Daybreak. You played that one?
Yep.
And I played a little bit of... Gosh, what did I play? I played some Stellaris over this last weekend and over the holiday break.
So you're like probably 5 or 6 games into Daybreak now?
Yeah, I am.
How are you? Like, where are you at on Daybreak?
I do enjoy it. I've played US and Europe and the solo country, solo. So I've played those 3 as solo games, and I've played probably 3 or 4 games with other people, and I'm enjoying it more and more. It's in fact, after our first game and we got wrecked, I was like, there's no way anyone has asked to play this game harder.
Sure.
Like when I hear people saying in Pandemic, we need a 7th Outbreak card.
Sure.
And I'm like, what? No. And then now I'm like, okay, I can make Daybreak.
Yeah, I think I'm 5 games in, 5 or 6, and I think I'm now at the point where I want to play with whatever they're called, like the
challenge cards.
The challenge cards,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
I think I'm ready to play with them. I don't. It's weird. There's like a lot that I admire about the design, and also it's so strange because I feel like it's an amazing object, but also the things that seem tricky and interesting about climate change aren't in the game.
Right.
But there's lots of like fun learning stuff I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, there's.
Yeah.
But I can't decide. I don't.
It's funny to me because I know we can't have everything, but I'm also like, well, why do we have to pick between these 2 things? We need both of these things.
Right, exactly. Right, and that, like, the core game loop is so admirable.
Yeah.
And I think I'm at a spot where I think I would rather play Daybreak than a lot of other big card engine builders like Ark Nova and Terraforming Mars.
Sure.
I think I prefer to play Daybreak, but I still don't know if I like that genre. Because to me, that genre is best when it's like used in a historical framework, like a PAX game, or is like a very competitive engine builder, like Race for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But when it's used in a looser way, it like loses some of its
tension.
Yeah.
Sure, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm still sorting through my Daybreak feelings.
I played. Alina and I have been playing Sail in the Office, the 2-player trick taker, co-op trick taker, and again, I would say I'd rather play the crew. But if I only had 2 players,
sure,
I'd play Sail by
my
margin.
That's the whole thing.
There's your endorsement. You and I played Zubadis.
Yes, we did.
Very enjoyable.
Yeah, that's a scream.
Sometimes the negotiation games really annoy me, and I think that was just the right amount of leverage on each other that it just wouldn't get into these 10-minute long discussions about things. It would just be like, okay, yep, we're moving on.
Yep.
And that worked pretty well. I think that was a lot of fun. I'd be happy to play that again sometime. And I think for 7-player, it was very good team building.
Yeah, I do too. I like you know, there are reasons to like and dislike all of your coworkers in that moment.
Yeah.
No, I thought so. I've played a lot of Quo Vadis, which Quo Vadis is a game I always admired deeply as like an abstract piece of design, but I never really enjoyed playing that much. Because it would lock up too easily. And I really think the 2nd edition that introduced the starting powers and all that loosened it up just enough.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. And I'm glad it's going to live in the office because my kids aren't ready for it.
No, they're not going to play it. Yeah.
But it can hang out here.
I've been then I've also been playing this other game where I take 60 games off the floor of my house.
Ooh.
And I look through them and go, do I really love all of you?
Does it bring you joy?
And then I decide what I'm doing something to do with that. What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? So I've been playing in Board Game Land. I've been playing, let me think about that. Playing Septima, which I am now 6 games into Septima. And I'm going to say the thing that I feel like every person who plays Septima says this, but you kind of need to play with all the rules. Don't play the short game because it's way less interesting than the full game.
Do you think the short game was developed after the full game was developed?
I don't know.
As a learning tool?
I don't know. I mean, I know that Septima was designed to be an intro to Minecraft style games.
Yeah.
So I could imagine them building it and then the game got more complicated and interesting and then they went back and thought if they could have it all.
Who would do that?
Yeah, I know, exactly. Right. Who would do it? One of the weirdest things about Septima is it has a little small expansion with these animal familiars where you can not animal familiars, you can turn yourself into a squirrel or something.
Yeah.
And it reeks of bloatware.
Right.
Oh, now I can turn into a squirrel. It's just been bolted onto the design. But actually, it is the most interesting part of the entire game. And I highly recommend if you've played Septima and you've even played full Septima, but you haven't used the animals, you have to use the animals because it introduces this Concordia style puzzle because whenever you shapeshift, you get all of your spent cards back. And previously in the design, you're just getting them back at the top of every turn.
Yeah.
But it introduces that tempo game, which I think is interesting. Broadly, Septima, I think, is a strong piece of design that is also pretty fiddly. And my partner really enjoys it, so we play it. We've been playing it a fair bit. I am finding myself personally about ready to move on to the next game. I'm trying to get better at playing recent Euro releases because I find that I'm pretty good at playing recent war games. And recent light games. But for the midweight Euro, I love midweight Euros from 2006. So I've been trying to get a lot better. So I just picked up a copy of Evacuation, which we're going to play.
Just by reading the rules.
Yeah, I was reading the rules. I'm going to hopefully play it this week. And then I also picked up a copy of Darwin's Journey, which I heard was very good. So I just kind of want to see what is, I think those were 2 very well-regarded medium to heavyweight Euro economic games from last year. I want to see what they got. How good are they as games? And then beyond that, so Patrick, I've been playing some old school essentials, some OSC, with kids and with family members. We're having a lot of fun playing, BD&D basically.
And we both played mazes.
We both played mazes.
Yep.
And then I, in Video Game Land, have been with the world enjoying Lethal Company so much. I think it's wonderful. I think it's I've had more fun with it as a computer co-op game than any game for a really long time. Okay. It's just very funny, and it has a really, it's very easy to learn. It has a good amount of silliness to it. It doesn't have depth, but what I like about it is a lot of co-op games. I think, and I've now played a little bit of Borderlands. And I know you played a lot more Borderlands.
A few more hours.
Borderlands to me has a kind of depth that is a depth by virtue of being
it's a content.
A wide, shallow sea.
Yeah.
Where it's you want to know the difference between this rate of fire and that rate of fire and this little thing and that little thing. And there's a lot of texture to explore in a Diablo sense.
Right.
But also, I mean, it's like the Galaxy Brain meme where you're I play Diablo because I want to click on skeletons, and it's I play Diablo for my dope builds, and then Galaxy Brain is I play Diablo because I want to click on skeletons.
Yeah.
Where it kind of it loops back around to that, and to me, what is so nice about Lethal Company is it knows it doesn't need to offer a lot of BS to its players.
Right.
The shovel doesn't need to do less or more damage than the stop sign.
Right.
It's a thing that you whack.
Right.
And so I think the design is very, very nicely situated.
Is it going to be a good replacement for my Tuesday night game?
I think it would be a great game to play with that group.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those of you watching, I play the I play on Tuesday with the same 4 people, my spouse, a friend of mine, 2 friends of mine. We all get together and play one co-op game every Tuesday. We've been playing The Division 2, which is mostly just like, because we're running out of co-op first-person shooters.
Yeah, no,
I don't really like Division 2.
Well, and I was telling this to Nick earlier that like I love physical humor in video games.
Yeah.
I think it's actually really hard to pull off because video games are so fast.
Right.
But good physical humor, I think it works very well in the video game format, and Lethal Company is hilarious. The amount of times I turn around a corner and my sister hits me with a stop sign and kills me.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Because she was expecting an
alien. And like the weapon, it's like when you're holding the stop sign, you kind of like can't see out a part of your screen, and you just
swing.
Yeah, so it's so charming, and it has like the fundamentals are really strong. And then still doing more StarCraft. Actually, I had a lovely thing happen to us in our StarCraft playing. Which is, so I play with my good friend Ryan, and we've been doing 2v2s for like the last couple of years together. Yeah. And we've gotten to a place where I think we are pretty good, but we also consistently get surprised, and we found they just cycled new maps in a couple months ago, which are, they're completely different. And
which someone had optimized like the first hour.
But what is fascinating is every map is like a little like notepad or canvas for you to like communicate with the opponent's team with how you're building.
Yeah.
And we kept finding players one base rushing us, which is a weird, like the one base all in StarCraft where you're like, I'm not expanding, I'm just building an army, I'm gonna walk over the map and kill you.
Yeah.
This was out of the meta like so far because what would happen is you could build enough static defense to repel them, and then if you had built an economic advantage, you were going to win the game.
Yeah.
But what was happening, and Ryan were like, we played 3 or 4 games in a row where every single game was happening. And at 10 o'clock at night or something, he wrote me he DM'd me a message being like, I think I have a theory of why we're getting one base rushed. And it's because when Ryan was scouting, he was being cheeky, and I was encouraging him to be cheeky, and building pylons in their expansion sites. The idea being, haha, you can't build an expansion until you kill this little pylon.
Right, which means you have to send a guy now.
Yeah, which means you have to you're sending your 2 Marines or whatever to go kill this pylon. It means that your expansion, the bet that we were making was, haha, your natural expansions are now 1 or 2 minutes late.
Right.
And what we think was happening was players were saying, oh, you're gonna block my natural? I'm gonna one base you. On the assumption that you're going hard into econ, thinking that you have an economic lead on me, but actually you're behind me on the troop game.
Right.
And it was just fascinating. I was like, oh, this little new piece of like the syntax and language of StarCraft got unlocked after like another 15 years of play.
Nice.
So been enjoying that. And lastly, I've been playing. I finished Final Fantasy IV.
Ooh.
Which was great. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm now playing a game I've never played before. I'm playing Dragon Quest V. Which
there was an audible gasp.
So I have not played. I mean, I played the first 4 Dragon Quest games when they were called Dragon Warrior games for NES, and then never really. Like, that series always seemed like the baby series to Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And I'm now realizing that, like, actually, in terms of the game's mechanisms, the reverse is true. That the Dragon Quest games are way deeper and more interesting than the Final Fantasy games. Their plots are a little sillier.
Right.
But as a middle schooler or whatever, I was like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy, that's those are serious JRPGs. And those little slime games are for babies.
Jacket while you're playing your
for babies.
Fantasy,
Final Fantasy V, Dragon Quest V, it's been a great time. I'm having a blast.
Did you, is the first one, like, it was on the NES and it was solo? Like, it was one character, right?
Yeah, it was one character.
Yeah, okay. Because like, when they said we're making more of those, I was like,
what else do you do?
Why?
Well, and then they like introduced party and then job classes and like Dragon Quest V introduced, as far as I understand it, the innovation of like monster catching, which then Pokemon riffed on. So there's this funny thing where
which is all from Wizardry 3.
Sure. Yeah, right. I mean, this is the weird CRPGs and JRPGs. Their close relationship.
I want everyone to know I played Dragon Quest, on a emulator, not on the original Nintendo.
I played it on the original Nintendo. That was one of my garage sale RPGs, and then I had a friend who had his older brother really loved Dragon Warrior 1 and he had all of the Dragon Warrior games, which are right now like worth a mint because they did not print very many Dragon Warriors for the NES.
There was one more I thought of. Well, if I think of it later, I'll tell you.
Okay.
All right. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. A little surprise.
A little surprise.
Okay, so
Any news?
News, studio news.
Do you want me to do the news?
You can
do the news.
You can do the news, and I'll supplement, and then we can.
All right. Well, because I won't say much because you know how I communicate. What the heck's his last name? Marsden? Martins. Why do I keep thinking it's Marsden?
You know, we have mics on.
Oh, that's true.
The Wizards.
So we just hired Matt Martins from Space Cats Peace Turtles to come and be our event manager and community management. We're very excited to have him on board. Thank you for agreeing to come with us, even though I couldn't remember your last name. I mean, there's a lot of people now.
And also, like, this office is a last name optional. Like, I had to refer someone to Anne, and it took me like a solid 5 minutes to search through my heart and be like, Anne's last name is. This is a very casual place.
You know, where I used to be able to remember all your birth dates, so now I can't do that. So, yeah, Matt Mittens, I believe, is his actual name. And so Matt will be Space. Well, yeah, he's the Space Cat.
Yeah.
And so he's working for us now, but he'll be coming throughout February and March to move out here and start working in our office daily. And I'm very excited to have him on board. We have another good, solid playtester, and we're going to have a larger presence at Gen Con this year. And so that's just something that we needed to make sure was done correctly. Not that Brooke is doing a fine job, a great job, but it's just now beyond.
We have such big plans for Gen Con that
now
we needed.
The scope of one job.
We needed someone else to help.
As I said in the ops meeting, it's now a larger liability, so we need to make sure it's addressed correctly. So I'm excited to have him on board. Anything to add to that?
I've got one small thing, which is, speaking of growth, we are going to start hunting for a graphic designer.
A graphic designer. Yep.
So in the next couple weeks, we'll be posting.
Don't send me your resume yet.
Yeah, don't send a resume yet, but in the next couple weeks, but start preparing your portfolio if you're a graphic designer.
Yeah.
We are still working on the job description and job posting and things, but we're hopefully going to be hiring a generalist graphic designer who wants to work on marketing assets, helping build booths, and also working on games and learning all sorts of parts of the business.
Only strange requests.
Yes. Or like, why is the printer printing cyan instead of magenta or whatever? But we are really excited to hopefully be bringing someone on for that, and so that will go live. That posting will go live in a couple weeks. We will certainly advertise it, and we usually keep those job applications open for a few weeks.
Yeah. So we're doing that, and and so that'll be the liability portion of our job seeking this year. So I'm very excited, and I'm very excited about our future. Looking forward to our future plans. I can't really talk about them much yet, but I like how this year is shaping up for us. I'm very happy to get back out in front of the audience a lot more, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Do you want to add any news?
We'll talk about ARCs. The ARCs, what they've seen is on top, is what I'll say. In terms of projects, we've just finished a big project.
Yeah.
And so there were 4 people, myself, Josh, Patty, and Kyle, who basically spent the last 8 months plus working on ARCs. Some of us, like Josh and myself, were there for longer, and Kyle certainly.
I was working 60 hours a week on it.
Yeah, just
no, that's not true at all.
But after a big project's over, the staff's exhausted. So many of us took, some time for the holiday, and then we came back tired. And so
if you're a Leader Games employee watching this and you're tired, please take some more time off.
So I had to remind different folks who were working on ARCs, like, it's okay to have like a slow January and just kind of slowly recharge those batteries. But we are starting to ramp up other projects. I've been plugging into the Oath expansion, which the Oath expansion right now is like a giant pile of notes, and kind of my job for the next few weeks is to sort through it and start getting something close to a proposal that can turn into things that are testable. So we're doing that. Josh is looking at some root possibilities, which are very exciting. And then as we sort through that, we will be also helping the last stages of the Ahoy testing. So Ahoy testing is going to start really ramping up. So if you are on the testing Discord, expect some updates pretty soon, which is exciting, and we'll be hanging around a lot more in those parts, and I'm excited to sort of see folks there. And then Patrick, you've been working on a lot of things.
I've been working on a lot of things. Do you want to list them all? This will be fun.
You can list as many as you feel comfortable people asking you questions about on the Discord.
Okay, I think that's fair. So, as you know, I was working on Path, which is our open world adventure game, and I got to a point where I think I'm ready to go back to, like, I could go back to it meaningfully. But it was just producing some problems I couldn't solve.
Sure.
So I decided to set it aside for a little bit. We got started on Block, and Block was coming along, and I think coming together. I think there were some questions that you were still concerned about, or we were both concerned about the design. But it's just too expensive to make.
Yeah, it was running into this funny problem where it was snapping together, but it was like, was it snapping together in a way that was as exciting as you had dreamed, or in a way that you would be happy to sell for the amount of money that it was going to cost to sell? And so it was like it was this alchemy of all these like funny things about Block.
Yeah, it was like these 3 points that weren't quite touching. Yeah, and so I decided to set it down for a little bit. Alina and I talked about a way to reboot it recently that's very silly and not related to Block, like just the block stack, and it would take like 16 blocks instead of 60, which might be the way to do it.
Much better number.
Yeah. It represents a cave that monsters are running around fighting each other in. And then I've been working a lot recently on a game called Opus, which is a fully cooperative game about robots who all wake up in a lab together. So kind of that like indie game vibe of like, why are we here? Kind of moment in your life. And the robots have been selected. They've been built to go on a mission to Mars. But before they can go on a mission to Mars, they have to prove to the proctors that they're not going to like start fighting each other during the Mars mission, because they can go to Mars without eating or food or water. They'll be valuable to go, but they still have to be able to work together. And so the players are cooperatively trying to prepare dinner for the proctors. Is the experiment, and the, kind of a cynical like what do we make robots do? Let's make them make food, even though they don't need food. And so they're making food. And the Plastic Blocks, I will interrupt my own talk. Plastic Blocks, unfortunately, really wasn't any cheaper. We priced it. It was maybe 50 cents a unit. Over an extraordinary price. So
we would like save on shipping, but it's not addressing the fundamentals.
No, not addressing the fundamental issue. They also wouldn't, I don't think they'd stack particularly well. And so Opus is being built in a way that as the characters as you finish each game, win or lose, then the story will continue to unfold around the characters, and so then it's designed to present stop me for this one, a 3-campaign arc.
Ooh.
And so if you win the first one, then it's basically you're looking for best 2 out of 3. So if you win 2 in a row, then that's the whole campaign. If you lose 2 in a row, that's the whole campaign. And you can get to that 3rd game by winning and losing one. But you're on a specific story each time you go through that. Yep. And I'm really enjoying working on it right now. I think it's been a lot of fun. I like I think the artistic elements of it are kind of ardent and interesting. Like I'm talking a lot about AI and like personality and identity, and so I've had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
So, I've been working on that. And I've been working on my dungeon crawler, Castle Blood. So,
I've seen it on the table.
I've seen it on the table.
This past month or so.
So about 6 months ago, I wrote up a new skill system for it, and I just one night I was like watching TV and just like, oh my god, brr. And then remember that notebook that got destroyed in the rain? That was in there.
Okay.
So I lost it, but I reconstructed it, and then I was able to come back with the skill system, and we've been playing that. There is a lot of dice in it right now, so I want to play it with you and Ted sometime and be like, are we cutting some dice here? Yeah. And I think it's a good energy for that game, like maybe 20 or 30 years ago. But like I think now it's like, if we're already playing cards, then maybe the cards need to inform everything about what's happening in the combat. So we'll talk about that sometime. So so that's what I've been working on. I've been working on that and others, but those are the main 2 I'm working on.
Yeah, I think about something that you told me when I first started working here many years ago, where you were talking about a design of the goblins that involved like rolling dice to draw cards to roll dice.
Yeah.
And you're like, at that point, you're like, what am I doing with the like noise generation?
Right.
And
That's
so
actually how it came to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But
funny.
yeah.
But I always think about that whenever I'm working on a game that has multiple like noise generators, where I'm like, I really don't want them to ever touch.
Right.
I never want to draw a card that tells me to roll a die, and I never want to roll a die that tells me to draw a card.
Yeah.
Especially if it's going to lead to a third chaining of a random output.
And that's Castle Blood right now is your basic action you can attack with. But there are cards in your hand that let you make additional attacks with modifiers, and that's like then you roll dice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you already had to have the card to attack, so maybe that should be
Maybe,
enough.
yeah, it's already good.
But I don't want to make Gloomhaven 2 or 3.
3. Someone asked if the Oath expansion is going to fit in the base box, and what I'll say about that is I don't even know what like size boxes the expansion might fit in. So like the approach that we're using, I think this is helpful to convey to folks, is that we have a number of different like design initiatives when it comes to Oath that are all some are going to bear fruit and some are not. And then once the ones that do bear fruit, we have to think about how to package.
Right.
You know, the Oath box is funny because with the insert, there's not that much extra space, but there is some if you don't sleeve. And it's possible to imagine most everything fitting in that we have planned right now if you're not sleeving. If you are sleeving, it of course is not going to fit. This is actually not so different from the way we're treating like the ARC's campaign box and sleeve players who want to sleeve their cards. Like if you sleeve your cards, the campaign box will fit everything sleeved or unsleeved. But if we start doing additional content, the sleeved players are going to have to use the expansion boxes to store some of the content because they're making the decision to sleeve their game, which is going to take up more space. Whereas it's possible to imagine like even the next couple ARCS waves fitting in the base box. So we always have to, you know, we're always having to balance a bunch of different competing interests when it comes to like things like box storage. But the Oath box, despite being a pretty full, heavy box, actually does have a fair amount of room if most of the content is cards, which is true of the Oath expansion as imagined right now.
I think the question was, is there an update about the? Can you scroll up just a little bit?
There was one about the Vagabond pack in Europe.
What info can you share on the Oath expansion, which we're just talking about right now? It was, he said,
I see.
Oath.
Yeah.
Vagabond pack in Europe?
I can't remember.
So we're reprinting the Vagabond pack in a few months, and then it will be distributed everywhere.
Right. It'll be in the places where
and we'll be reprinting it right now. We just don't have the creative bandwidth right now.
Yeah, we have to do one big thing at a time.
It's money's fine, and we have bandwidth of the printer. It's just we can only push so many buttons at once.
Right. So then for ARCS. So for ARCS, what I said to you all in December when we talked last, which feels like a year ago,
it was last year.
Was that we would be done with ARCS.
Yeah.
And we are.
Yeah.
We are done with ARCS. All the files were submitted in mid-December. So basically like about 2 weeks post our original goal. Like if I think about when like we were hoping to have everything submitted. I think the last time I talked to you, I said that we'd be submitting, or the last update I wrote was like, I think that we missed the mark by just a little bit, but just a bit. And so we got all that stuff through pre-press before Christmas. So basically everything got submitted, I think, by like, I can't remember if it was right before or right after PAX. No, it was right after Unplugged. Because after Unplugged, we had the ARCS NPC, or not the NPC, the ARCS pre-production copy, which I showed on stream. And then after that, we were putting in the last little adjustments, some very small balance things. And then we got all those files submitted and approved before we left for Christmas. I'll say about the ARCS campaign submission. My goodness, there are so many files. It was just massive. I don't think I've ever worked on a project with as many words. I think
Packs for Fear Animal wasn't larger?
No.
Okay.
No, like just even in terms of word count. I think ARCS is probably as big as PAX and John Company put together. Maybe about.
I like that we started using oath as our unit of
Yeah, so
measurement.
like how many oaths. Well, and it was funny because we really thought I really thought ARX was going to be of similar scale to Oath, and I think it ended up being like twice as large of a project. I mean, both physically and just in terms of
And design,
the design requirement. But ARX, let me tell you, as I'm working on Oath, ARX is much easier to expand than Oath. Yes.
What if there was an oath? I want to pitch you an oath expansion.
Build a rocket.
Yes, go to space.
Go to ARX.
In fact, when you finish Oath, you just go right into ARX. Now, what if there was like story beats, like that's what you introduced to Oath? Is there's
That's
a,
what I would
six
like.
card?
Yeah,
six card,
I
eight
want,
card.
like, one of the paths of Oath is to think about like allowing Oath to end itself and to provide like closure for folks playing through it. So it is something that we're kind of stewing on. So what was I going to say about ARX? I just completely forgot it. Oh, in the final ARX submission, I did something I've done for every single Leader Games project, which is I changed a very small thing right at the end. Like I made a very, like every single project I've ever worked on, there's always been I'm getting ready to submit the last card file, and I'm like, this 9 should be a 10.
Oh, nice.
And so ARX, I didn't think that was going to happen for ARX.
Do you know the audience? You're mic'd right now.
I know.
The audience can hear you.
And it was, I didn't know it was going to happen for ARX at all, but it was one of those things where just like the way who was in charge of turning in the very last file and what the last file happened to be, I was just sitting there being like, I think this 9 needs to be a 10. I don't know. And so I pushed it up right
It's going to be hotly debated.
I know.
A year
We'll
from
see.
now.
And which number? Actually, people on the Discord, you have all the clues. You could figure out which number,
card it was.
Which number I changed. Because it was a response to a balance conversation that had happened in the Woodland Warriors that I was just kind of stewing on, and we made a little baby correction.
I just got an email from Josh Earsley.
Oh no!
What does this
Josh
mean?
knows what I did.
Oh,
I asked for permission because Josh was co-lead on the dev.
Yeah.
We made each other ask for permission for any development changes, which was fun. So this copy right here, this is a PPC. This is made by hand. And it is this is something that we play a lot when we're in the production process.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that everything is like the right size. Now it isn't. It's stripped of parts a little bit because the campaign pieces are in the campaign box.
Oh, sure.
Or the base pieces are in the base box. But this, let's see if people on the screen can tell the difference. This is the actual
One's being done by
real
Cole.
print copy. This is a manufactured, an MPC, a mass production copy or manufacturer's proof copy. I've seen the acronym mean both things for different factories. And if you look, I don't know if we want to go to an overhead cam, we can put them side by side. Yes.
There you go.
Okay, so this is the real one, and you'll note that the colors are brighter. And they're brighter for two reasons. One, Kyle actually redrew a lot of the art on the copy to on the cover to make it match the rest of the look of the game.
Yeah, he'll be doing that for every cover.
For every cover.
Yep.
But also just the quality of the printing when you're actually using offset printing with the real nice printers is going to be better. And then I don't even know what's in here. I think a lot of this
I'm
stuff.
going to tweet the drive and drive photo right now. Everyone go look at my Twitter when you get a moment.
And then I want to just compare the board. So this is a, I don't know if this is going to be an easy way to do this. Let's see if I can't find the right panel easily. Here we go. Nope, that's not the right panel. Here we go. So this is the actual proof copy of the board. Here is the preview. This is a lot darker and has much worse contrast than this. This board also, I think, has a different finish. It has we used a linen finish for all the punch and for the boards. The board is additionally laminated, which will give it a little bit more hardiness and helps with that crease. But yeah, this is the actual final thing. I won't go through all the different components because on camera you're not going to see it. But basically, in like 100 little ways, this copy is just so much nicer. Everything turned out really, really well. Go ahead, go for it. You'll note that we're keeping these in the sprues because this is our library reference copy. In fact, Anne used the label maker to enter its date and identifier like right here. So that means it's going to sit in our library and is be used for reference. So we probably won't ever play with it.
Can't imagine.
Yeah. And then for the cards, though, we did do a careful count of everything, and I'll show just a couple. So here we have the actual cards. I mean, this is. I hope
they're
you
beautiful.
can see that they're beautiful, and Kyle did an exceptionally good job. Patty's layouts are lovely. You know, this Oath uses a lot of flat colors, and so it didn't really give Patty a chance to really show off her like texture making Photoshop chops. But boy, Arcs was like a playground, so there's lots of really good pieces in this game. Super happy with how it turned out. It looks great. One funny thing happened in this production where I think I mentioned this last chat, where because of paper shortages, we got a kind of free paper upgrade. So all the cards in this are going to be black core instead of blue, which is like that's I think they're often used for Magic cards and things like that. But
I do this and you laugh.
Yeah, very happy.
But there is occasionally a production game I see where you can see the back through the front and vice versa. So.
Yeah, not on these. The dice are great. You've already seen these. You can see the cute little aliens. Boop. I don't know. It's a reflection. Again, very happy with how this turned out. It's really special. This was a huge effort, and it's fun to see it all in one place. Now, we only have the production copy for the miniatures, this, and the leaders and lore. That's because they get produced first. We can't just take over every single bit of a factory's production capacity at once. So, because these things were finished in October, in terms of the files, they went into production first, and then basically once they finish everything and start assembling, they send one manufacturer copy to check the pack-up in assembly, and as soon as it gets approved, so like for instance, things like putting the foam on top and like making sure these are in the right spots. As soon as we approve it, they go into final assembly and then get it on the boat about as fast as they can get it. The campaign is parts of the campaign are in production right now. They're doing the hard component tree and some elements of it. The campaign's production will probably be finished shortly after Lunar New Year, and then we will have our manufacturer, our MPC for that sometime after that. And around then, we will start to know about final timelines. So you might remember I said, we're hoping to deliver sometime like in the later spring, but that it's kind of a plus or minus 2-month affair. We are now in the plus or minus, where we will learn in the coming months, like, is it going to be closer to summer or per the original schedule? All that stuff will be kind of sorted out fairly soon. But for our work, we're done. We're done with ARCs. It's done. It'll be to you all. If you see all this stuff and you're like, I can't wait till I get my copy, whenever that might be, don't worry. You can play it on TTS right now.
This minute.
This minute, and in fact, there's an intrepid crew of folks working on a tabletop playground mod that is really cool and has lots of neat features. And if you'd like to see some ARCs or play some ARCs, there is a pre-launch tournament happening right now.
Yeah.
You can tune into games, and you can find all that information over on the Woodland Warriors.
And how many people do you think signed up for that?
Well,
you know for sure.
I know. But it was a very impressive 60 signups for a game that's not out yet. That's great.
It's fantastic. So.
And I'm excited that, one reason why we're bringing Matt on to help run the Gen Con event is that we're going to have space to do like lots of ARCs games. So if you're going to be at Gen Con this year, like maybe you'll get to learn ARCs from us and play in some of the games we'll be hosting.
So cool. So these were made for Giant Root.
Oh yes, they were made for Giant Root.
Someone was asking about them, and they were cut by a local U of M student who works as a handyman, and then my wife painstakingly painted them all in our garage. And there's blue paint on things they didn't want blue paint on, and that's okay.
That's okay.
And then these little stickers. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I think we're gonna give them away someday.
I think we've been slow. We gave them those awards for the Root tournament.
Yeah.
So I think they're slowly going to be like Root tournament awards.
Yeah.
The problem with them, and some folks here will know this, is when you played Giant Root on the giant map, the pieces were very heavy and you got tired very quickly.
Yeah. Especially, it was weird because some groups expected you to move them all, and I can only bend over so many times per day, and then I was like, no, I can't do this anyway. Root animal ideas. I have told Josh it has to be bats and frogs.
Has to be bats and frogs.
Has to be.
There's no.
I rarely say anything has to be around here, but that was and 2 maps. No, I said I suggest.
Yes.
Frogs and bats, and we don't need maps, but.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting product profile to work on because I told Josh that we have the concept of the hireling pack, we've got the concept of the extra deck, and of like a landmark pack, and then we have an expansion which tends to be like 2 factions plus something else.
Right.
And however he wants to mix that up. If he says like I got 2 factions and a pair of maps, great. If he's like maybe we should do a 3-faction expansion or whatever.
Right.
I think there's a lot of different ways to take it, and he's going to have a bit to just kind of stew.
My original roadmap for Vast had the stuff on it, the factions, and then the last column of it was like, what gameplay element will I add? Team mode?
Right.
Will it co-op? Yeah, that's sort of like those things. So, anyway.
Nice. Well, that's it for the studio chat. We've had a lot of good games this December. I'm so excited about the coming year and not having to complete a gigantic space game that has taken 3 years of my life.
Oh, wow.
That is no longer on my list of things to do.
We need to talk then.
Yeah.
No, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, no,
I'm very excited for the team. Did a fantastic job too, and I cannot overstate how much work it was.
The thing that I wish I could have captured on video or whatever is like when we got the PPCs for the campaign game and the base game, we have a shelf in the studio, it kind of looks like this, with all of our titles, and we put it next to the other title, the other titles, and it just looked great. Yeah. And I was like, it feels good to just kind of add to that, that little montage, or that tableau. And I think folks are going to go crazy for it. So
I have 3 things to say before we go.
Yeah.
Climate change is a faction. Brilliant joke.
Yeah, there you go.
It's playing so much Daybreak and Spirit Island. We'll get to climate change. Makes the game co-op when the climate change is in the game. And then Hounds of War. I actually, I think it's interesting because originally we said the cat should be the only domestic species.
Right.
But so many people love their dog that it's
true.
Just as a marketing tool, I think adding dogs to the game.
Yeah, I think if we want a wolf faction.
Yeah, a wolf or a dog.
I think that we could get there.
Yeah, I just keep seeing little those Italian the Renaissance pikemen dog.
I think mercenary factions are just if we wanted to go the Dogs of War route.
Yeah.
Mercenary factions are just really hard to design.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the Otters are essentially a mercenary faction, and they're hard to design. So
yeah. People are asking for more Oath expansion info, and next month I'll probably have some. But right now it's a big pile of notes. I don't mean to sort through this on chat, but I'm trying to decide how I want to use my social media because over the past 6 months I have slowly unplugged from it, and
just finish it.
I just don't
I'll do it for you.
I'm on Blue Sky, and I don't think I've posted anything. I retweeted things once or whatever it's called, and then Twitter, it just bums me out. I log on and I'm like, this just feels like a sad place, and it's weird because Blue Sky, I feel like. So the thing that I liked about Twitter was that it was filled with a bunch of people who I don't normally talk to. Right. I don't follow a lot of board game people on Twitter. So mostly my Twitter were academics I like, or journalists, or historians. Yeah. And then on Blue Sky, none of those people are on Blue Sky. So when I log into Blue Sky, I just get board game stuff. And I'm like, well, this is just work.
I get board game or Neil Gaiman and Gail Simone, who I love, arguing with each other playfully. That's my entire feed.
But it is this funny thing where I've just found Kyle actually had a suggestion. I think this is from the How to Do Nothing book, where if you pull out your phone, you could just get a good reader, and you could just be reading a book. Yeah. And so I started doing that, where I my default I'm just sitting somewhere, I'm gonna pull out my phone, and I'm I'm reading a novel I want to read, and I'm having a really hard time sorting through if I should just leave it because I like writing a Twitter thread occasionally.
Right.
It's become a strange place. So I've just felt I don't know. It makes me feel like I want to share less about process, but I'm sharing process is so fun, and it's such a big, important part of our work.
Discuss it with Matt. We'll find another vehicle.
Yeah, we have to think about it. But if it's something. If you feel like you haven't seen me on those platforms because I don't know how I'm going to use them, maybe I should try to use Blue Sky for a bit and see how it feels.
Yeah, it's nice. There's no direct message.
Yeah, Twitter is like I mostly use for DMs.
The way that well, I remember I was like made that big show about getting on Twitter right before Gen Con, and then it was like everyone was like, "Can I DM you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I to find so." All right, the third thing we'll save for another time. I was going to talk about an element of Opus design. We should probably just play it and then we'll
for sure.
I'll post an article about it so that you can hear it. So.
And we're also thinking about using our little streaming studio for more like games of other kinds, even games we didn't work on and playing them.
That'd be fun.
So lots of exciting stuff coming this present year.
I think it's a full game of Santa's Workshop before the end of Christmas.
And that's why Santa didn't. That's why Christmas never happened.
Christmas, we didn't finish the exit Advent calendar. We were trying to rescue Santa, and I to my brother yesterday, I was like, what if Santa just didn't come to our house? And then we were like, well, sorry kids, we didn't rescue Santa. So anyway, last things, Ahoy Backer Kit is currently open, right?
Yes.
Late pledge it. I mean, it was a Backer Kit, but now you can late pledge it right now. So go do that. Look for ARCs coming up. I think you can still late pledge.
Yep. Until the end of the month.
Until the end of the month. Not much longer if you want that. And look forward to more studio.
More studio
casts. And Matt, hopefully we'll be increasing our amount to produce.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.